Hello BAME farm fans. It's weed killing time in the beans. So, guess we'll take a look at what we're putting in. We'll start from the beginning to see this whole process. We're mixing 4 chemicals and water, I guess we'll say. We're putting on a 20-20-20 fertilizer solution. It's just 2.5 pounds per acre. The sprayer is 200 gallons, and we're putting on 20 gallons of water per acre. That's a solid amount of water, but that helps reduce drift by having larger water droplets so they fall down instead of just stay suspended in the air. Let's see, for broadleaf control, we are spraying sodium salt foamosathan, or Foresight. It's also branded as Foma, depending upon who makes it. It's kind of like Chafin Star or Sharpen. It's a broadleaf killer. We've had pretty good luck with it. Diplomat, it's a crop oil. It cuts the wax on the leaf and then helps the weeds absorb the chemicals. And then for beans, good old generic Glyphosate. Back in the day it was called Post, but the patent on that name I guess is worn off. And well, this is a good old-fashioned grass killer, and you can spray it on a wide number of broadleaves, but we're spraying soybeans. If I wanted to, I could broadcast spray this across all the vegetables to kill the grasses, but the problem is grass isn't the problem in the vegetables, it's usually broadleaf things. Sometimes we will also mix in, and I've been doing this on a as-needed basis, Classic. And Classic is definitely a classic chemical from the olden days before Roundup. That's a dry flowable, and I'd only put that on at 1/4 ounce per acre. But I'm assessing that as I pull into each field whether I need to put some in the tank or not. Okay. So, rates. We went through all the chemicals. Obviously that whole bag's going in. I got to dissolve it in that bucket, and it takes a few buckets. The sulfofoamosathan is a pint per acre. A pint per acre of the crop oil, and we're going max rate on the Glyphosate at 12 ounces per acre, because sometimes the grass is a little big and we have Johnson grass in places I want it to die. Number 1 cause of reed resistance is going cheap on chemicals and not going full rate. So if there's one thing I learned from weeds class, whatever the maximum recommended rate is on the label is probably a good idea to do that if you want to kill it. So no cutting corners there. I'm not going to show the measuring. This is the measuring cup, because we're just going to pour it in, read the side, dump it in, keep going. So one fun fact about all these chemicals, it probably includes the crop oil, is that these are all non-restricted use herbicide. That you can walk into a Rural King. Actually, that's where this came from, because we came a little bit short and I had to go buy that jug yesterday. And they have a different brand name of the foamosathan that you don't need a sprayer's license to purchase these, and they're sold at Rural King and TSC. So that's a fun fact. Of course, Rural King also sells Roundup. If you haven't noticed, I'm spraying non-GMO soybeans because there is no Roundup anywhere in this picture. So I got it mostly full of water. This last load I just filled out of the well. And I've got, if you haven't noticed, the pump running. Look how milky it turns the water. It turns into a suspension instead of a solution. Because these 2 chemicals are more oil-based than being like a water-based solution. Whereas some of them are colloidal suspensions, kind of like atrazine. Now, using this fertilizer is sort of like using AMS, except I guess Dad wants more P and K, because the AMS is just ammonium sulfate, so it's more nitrogen. But the little bit of P and K in here will be good for the corn. Now it's going to take me 3, maybe 4 pours of fertilizer in here. We pour some in, and we whip out our handy dandy stirring spoon, and we get it going. I could put something on the drill, but I used to do that, and the number of times I touched the side of the bucket on accident and end up with fine plastic shavings in the sprayer filter. Well, that got annoying. So now I'll just do it by hand, work that wrist action. Oh yeah. Now, someone's gonna say, why don't you hire it out? It'd be so much quicker. I've thought about that, but the problem is we're spraying non-GMO beans, and I imagine most of the co-ops just like to load up with Roundup and go, 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 so they have to sit there and rinse out the sprayer for us. And I know Bandit's very much against spraying, or himself, that he hires it out, which is all fine and dandy. Well, wouldn't you know, we didn't even see the sprayer in action, and we can come out here and see the results of the chemicals. This has been 5 days. I haven't left the barnyard, but I came out here to the front field to show you guys, you know, kind of what's happening. Now, these beans are a little over a month old, a month and a few days, and they're about knee-high. It's fantastic. Yes, I know, we see some burning on the leaves. One famous YouTube channel said that beans like stress. If you remember who that is, good job. If you don't, oh well. So, some of these old-time chemicals before Roundup, in a land before time, when dinosaurs roamed, and there was no Roundup-ready beans, yes, it was common for some of the chemicals to burn the leaves of the beans. And that's why a lot of the times it was recommended that you didn't spray until there was at least 3 sets of trifoliates on the plant. And these are well past that. Definitely well past that. So sure, yeah, a little bit of stress, right? Beans like stress. Say that one more time. So, we can see the results. We see things dying. Some things are very dead and brown already in 5 days. That grass is a bit slower. Some of these shorter grasses that were, you know, maybe covered by the beans are a little slower to die. Maybe didn't get quite as much chemical down in the row. But the grass herbicide, we'll take a look at some grass over here. There we go. That barnyard grass is dying. The clethodim is a group 1 herbicide. That is an ACCase enzyme inhibitor. And to put that in layman's terms, quickly, what happens is clethodim the ACCase is involved with lipid production down in the roots. And so essentially there's root problems. We can pull this out. We're not going to be able to see it. I'd like to say I could see the roots dying, but I'm not sure. The roots are very awfully white and bright. But based on what I know about how ACCase enzyme inhibitors work, they're a little slower acting because they got to kill the roots off first, then the rest of the plant dies. Whereas the broadleaf killer in our mix, the sodium sulfofosaphane, is a group 14. That is a PPO inhibitor, and that interferes with an enzyme involved in photosynthesis, and it burns the leaves like with daylight. And within 1 day, these leaves are already burning. You can hear they're paper thin and crunchy. And so group 14 herbicides will kill from the leaves down, and they're more of a contact herbicide, so you gotta kill the leaves off. Where the grass herbicide, obviously if it's affecting enzymes in the roots, has to travel through the plant. Which I like that more, especially that's good for, well, here's the remnants of a little Johnson grass sprout. Yes, that's moving up out of the south. That's great for Johnson grass because they make rhizomes, which is, you know, a modified root for reproduction. So theoretically, you know, because it's affecting enzymes down the roots, that we will be killing the whole plant and it won't come back. I can't think of any grass herbicides that are contact killers. Look at this. This is why I love the sodium sulfofoamosaphin. I mean, it literally burns the plant, turns the leaves papery thin, kills them off. Well, I guess that's enough science for today. Let's get to the field and go out and kill some weeds that haven't been sprayed yet. And I'm going to show off the lovely knee-high beans after only a month of growth. It's August 1st, and congratulations for sticking around and hearing that date. I am very behind on video editing, so I'm sure it's probably September by now. Here we are at my Uncle Jim's field. His field of beans is very, very clean. There's a few small grasses down in, and maybe a cocklebur here and there. Cocklebur used to be a big problem, but with some different timing of spraying in the growing season, especially on corn, and rotating with beans, we've cleaned up the cocklebur, plus with a little bit of tillage in the spring. Uncle Jim is good about getting out here as early as possible, and he'll till it maybe once a week for most of May. Of course, it was wet at the end of May. That's beside the point. These were June 30th planted beans. Most of them were planted in the last few days of June. Because the last 2 weeks of May were wet, that set us back. I had to replant corn, all that fun stuff. So we spray every other set of 4. If you can look over here, and we don't have a bean planting video because I'm pretty sure I deleted the footage off my camera before I saved it on my computer like a bonehead. So we have sets of 6 and sets of 4. We can straddle the 4 in the middle of the tractor, and we essentially have tram lines. I have to spend a lot of time watching my booms just because, make sure I hit the corn. Oh, that was wet there. That is this field has wetness issues. Yes, it does. Okay, we're gonna come to the end, and we're gonna back in the corner here real good, whip everybody around on my forehead. Back in here. Yes, this field has wetness issues, as we can tell by the yellow corn. Wow, I can't believe it was that wet. Most of the water issues tend to be around where that dip is, but I did not realize it was that wet here. Wow. Wow. That probably could have used a ditch that I didn't think to make. Oops. Okay, so I just turned the PTO off. Between, you know, when I got to turn around at the headlands. Yes, okay, so 6, 4, 6, 4. Hopefully you can see that, and the camera's not too blurry. The new GoPro is being cantankerous. We have a lot of yellow leaves through here. That's interesting. Acts like it was dry, fire and leaves like that at the bottom. Have to look into those yellow leaves so you can see them. Looks like a John Deere down there. Yeah, so we're set up to go down every other set of 4. It's very convenient. Now, while we see this really bad stand of beans over here because of the trees and wetness, I will quick discuss the other herbicide that I have with me that I have not put in too much. Oh yeah, here's some cocklebur on the wet side. It's not too bad. So the classic is a group 2 herbicide, and group 2 is ALS inhibitors. There's quite a bit of resistance to ALS inhibitors, but if you don't have resistance, ALS inhibitors are very effective at killing plants. And the ALS enzyme, I think, is just part of the cell structure, and plants will slowly die. One very common occurrence of ALS resistance is in mare's tail. Yes, good old mare's tail. I have zero issue with mare's tail because mare's tail is a biennial, and with spring tillage, you disc, kill, plow, whatever tillage tool you choose. That will disrupt the rosette, so it will not make it to the point of... we're out here in no man's land. I don't want to spray down this side. I'll start over there by the corner and work my way back across again. Here, we'll pick a set of 4 to get us back to where we need to go. There it is. Yes, as we can see, there's a few weeds growing in the tire track. But the point of having these tram lines is so we're not running over beans when we're spraying. Theoretically, the beans know there's space there, you know, from the time that they germinate and whatnot, so they grow towards that space. If these were drilled or closer spaced on our row tracks, they're 18-inch space rows except for the wheel tracks, which are 24. If the beans were closer together, we'd be running down a row of beans, and then a month after being planted, then they would have to start filling in that space of where that row got ran over. Where here, we're starting out with the space and filling in from the beginning. It may not fully canopy over, or at least it won't canopy quick, but the beans are working towards it now instead of running over and wasting seed on these rows. We sprayed just under 40 pounds, probably about 35 or so. I can't spend too much time watching behind us. And that works out with our nozzle setup for 20 gallons per acre. I think that high 30s to 40 PSI range is fairly standard for sprayer pressure. Now, obviously, the big co-ops, those sprayers, we're going to count 6, 4, 6, and we're aiming for this 4 over here. I didn't have to stop. It's really easy to see the rows here, but I was trying to make it mostly visible for you folks watching. We spray 6th gear, or high 2 with the TA and low. Should get us about a 5 mile an hour, actually less. Because look at our speed chart. At this RPM in direct, we'd be doing over 5. So we're spraying like 4.5 miles an hour. Which with this tractor is great because you notice I'm not running full RPM. I'm using the 1000 PTO shaft to run the pump, so you don't have to burn a lot of fuel. This tractor is plenty big for the sprayer, but it's nice having the weight to control all 200 gallons when we're full. Well, here we are in another field of beans. This field has a little bit of common ragweed. It's been like that since I took it over. That's a fairly easy enemy. If you can look over there, you see it all turning brown in the beans and a little bit of leaf burn. I sprayed that side. It's been like 3 days. Okay, we come to the end. Oh, who put this ditch there? Oh, that was me. It's minorly annoying, but it obviously keeps the water moving, hopefully. 6, 4, 6, and this is our set of 4 that I ran a ditch through the middle of. Really gotta talk to the guy running the ditch here. I gotta have a conference with myself. The placement on these is a little weird at times. One thing I thought of is, you know, the big thing about, you know, spraying Roundup is using less chemicals. So we're putting on a pint of sodium saltafoamasapin and 12 ounces of clethodim and a pint of oil. You're gonna need the pint of oil regardless. Yeah, sometimes you might need more oil depending upon whose oil or surfactant. Whatever. But as far as, we'll say, weed-killing chemicals, we're putting on less than a quart per acre of, oh geez, who put that water drainage axle breaker there? Yet again, that was me. Gotta have a talk with myself. I guess it's working. It's either warding off the rain or it's keeping the water moving, not sure which, but the beans don't look half bad or drowned out yet. Now, from my limited experience with Roundup, it typically is applied at a quart per acre, I believe. If I'm wrong, someone tell me, and I am very sorry, because I am inexperienced with Roundup. But at least when I'm making up loads of spray to kill stuff around the barnyard, I'm mixing it as a quart per acre, whatever, for my little backpack sprayer. So I'm not using any more chemicals. You know, Roundup's not this, it wasn't this silver bullet. It's not saving everything because there's resistance developing, unfortunately. And I only spray once. Now, it's because I do tillage, so yay killing dinosaurs.